Take one.
Sigap na po. Dahil na po. So,
Sige.
okay na lang.
Ah.
So, good afternoon, sir. As we are supposed to conduct an interview to know about the relevance of assessment. So, before anything else, I would like to introduce myself first. I am Angelica Luno. Studied at Southern Leyte State University main campus. Took up a Bachelor of Technology and Livelihood Education, major in Home Economics. So, before the proper interview, I would like to ask some personal information from you, sir. Just state your name, the name of the school, and how long have you been in teaching, and what particular subject and grade level you are teaching the last time before the pandemic,
Before.
the COVID-19 pandemic, yes, sir.
So I'm Renario Ruiz Jr., a resident of Zone 2, teaching here in Sugod National High School. I've been teaching for more than 8 years now, and currently I am a head teacher for MAPE. Before that, I was a science teacher and a MAPE teacher also. So right now, I am a subject teacher for MAPE.
Okay. So we have a couple of questions here for the proper interview. So the first question is, how do you gather information about students in terms of their knowledge, skills, and value, and what particular assessment tools do you use?
In terms of students' knowledge and value, we conduct assessment prior and after every intervention we have. We conduct assessment before everything ends, before we give students our lessons. We have to assess and establish a baseline such that we can assess now. For post-assessment, we can see if there is progress. The tools that we commonly use in the classroom are questionnaires. Questionnaires can be in the form of paper pencil, sometimes in a review. We have different types of assessment. It ranges from psychological assessment, and diagnostic test, standardized test, and for common lessons, or for target lessons, we have formative and summative assessments.
Okay, sir. So how do you utilize the information you obtain from the assessments you are using in your profession?
The information we can gather in assessment are very useful in the sense that if the assessment is made before the intervention, it gives us a baseline. And if assessment is conducted or given after an intervention or a lesson, it will give us an information as to how did the student or the learner progress, or how much did the learner have grasped or learned from the lesson. So, in context, assessment is a data or a set of data that we can use for us to design our lessons and to identify or to give us an idea on where to start, or in the edge, beside the learner, we can identify as to what level should the learner be given the lesson, the difficulty of the lesson that we have, the strategy that we have to use for that particular learner, because designing a lesson needs to have data-based, or what we say, an intervention or lesson, a strategy that is what we call that, learner centered or appropriate for the learner. That's why we conduct this to generate data, design the lesson, and identify the best strategy we can use.
So when do you conduct your assessment, sir?
We usually conduct assessment. It's mandatory. It's a routine that before we start a lesson, we have a pre-assessment. And given the pre-assessment, the data we generate will give us the idea of where to start And after every lesson, after we give the most effective the lesson with the most using the best strategy, we conduct a post-assessment. And comparing that to the pre-assessment, the post-assessment, we can then now uh, gauge or identify the progress of the learner.
Okay, so from that assessment, sir, how do you monitor their progress towards the target goal or the objectives?
We have certain competencies for every lesson, and we design our assessments based on competencies that we target for a particular lesson. So if we use assessment in gauging our students, um, we usually use a method to arrange the data and read the data. For example, we have the test item analysis. We base the scores of the students for a particular item, and each item has a corresponding competency. And in the test item analysis, we can therefore identify if which particular competency would a class has learned much, and what was the least learned competency for that particular lesson. So assessment in that case would give us an idea if we have to proceed to the next lesson, or we have to go back to a particular competency, make a review, make a remedial, or we go for a reteach for that particular competency if we could identify that that particular competency is really least learned for that learners.
Okay, so you mean, sir, that did you make some adjustment from your assessment after the evaluation? And, okay.
We usually use adjustments or make adjustments. For example, for a particular competency, we already delivered lesson, and then we could now see that the student has really grasped higher or higher than what we have expected. So we adjust the level of difficulty for a particular assessment. And another thing is adjustments for the assessments can be learner-based. In that particular case, assessments can be a mix of easy, moderate, to difficult questions depending on the learners and depending on the particular competency we are trying to assess. The type of questions we give usually also depends on the competency. There are competencies that we can use objective questions. There are competencies also that we can use that is best assessed by using higher order thinking questions for the learners.
Okay, so how important to reteach, sir, move on or change your teaching strategies? How important?
That is very, very important because our target in teaching really is to have basic objective in teaching is for the learner to really grasp what we aim for them to learn. That's why in our lesson plan we always have the objective. And the objective corresponds to a particular competency that we want our students to learn. So in reteaching, in having remedial, that is very important because if a learner did not grasp or learn enough or did not hit the objective, or if the teacher failed to hit the objective for that particular lesson because maybe we failed to use the best strategy, or maybe we failed to know the learning ability of the learner. That is why we go back on how we teach the child, we change the strategy, and sometimes the second and the third strategy, the remedial or the reteach, would give the student more than what they should be learning for the first time.
Okay, sir. So we have the last question. How does assessment help you become more effective and efficient teacher?
The results of every assessment is also a reflection for teachers. And in that sense, reflections can give teachers a view of his ability or her ability to teach. So, if you can see the results of your assessment, you can say, you can go back to asking yourself, was I an effective teacher in teaching the students? Do I have the ability to carry out the strategy that I am using? Or do I need to enhance my skills in teaching? Another thing is, did I view or treated my students as expected, that I have reached to the context that they are now? So in that sense, assessment gives us data about the learners. At the same time, it gauges the teacher in terms of reflection on the level of proficiency maybe of a teacher.
So maybe that's it, sir. Thank you for sharing your ideas about assessment. So thank you, sir.
You're welcome.